All right, welcome everybody back to coverage of
Grand Prix Philadelphia
Thank you,
2012.
Ben. Yes, I am Marshall Sutcliffe, not at the Pro Tour anymore. I was there a couple of days ago, but here we are at the Grand Prix. I'm joined in the booth here by Ben Schwartz, and we are seeing a real powerhouse matchup early in the day here. This is Luis Scott Vargas on the right side of your screen versus Owen Turtenwald. Owen has led off with a man, a Guildgate into an island, and he windmill slams Syncopate on a turn 2 pack rat from Luis Scott Vargas. A huge play from Owen as he follows up with a look at him. He's so happy. Pack rat, one of the best cards in the format, and he follows up with a Seller of Songbirds. He's got an Owen token. Luis is unfazed as he plays his Splatter Thug. It is in fact unleashed. I'm taking a look at Luis's deck. Even though, and this is going to come as a surprise to a lot of people, you know, you watch Luis's videos on Channel Fireball, you've seen a lot of that. He tends to play 3 to 5 color decks with a lot of 7 drops. When it comes time for business, though, he will slim right back down to form. He is playing straight Rakdos here, just the beatdown plan.
It's interesting about pack rat. Owen mentioned that he played in a side draft at the Pro Tour, at the end of the Pro Tour, and he drafted this terrible deck. First 2 rounds, he lost both of them easily and had 1 pack rat sitting in his sideboard. So he sleeved up, 39 lands, 1 pack rat, mulliganed to pack rat every single game, and won easily 2-0.
Isn't that insane?
It's by far one of the most powerful cards in the format, and being able to counter it on turn 2 is so important. Without it, Luis would have taken this game very, very easily.
That's right. Now we're seeing Owen is continuing to battle. He's used a dramatic rescue, slow things down a little bit, but he's currently fighting. He plays a Hussar Patrol, moves immediately to the blocking step, and in fact does get to block the Splatter Thug. And there's a Bloodfray Giant for Luis Scott Vargas, one of the best uncommons in the set. As it sits on the board, it is a 5/4 with trample for only 4 mana.
Gigantic.
It's just massive, and they're playing very quickly here. Owen Turtenwald bashes with his Hussar Patrol and the bird token. No blocks from Luis, and he's going to play a Fairy Imposter. He's going to bounce the Seller of Songbirds and then replay it, garnering him yet another token. All right, Luis says, all right, I need to take a minute here. He crosses his arms. He's taking a look at the board state. Now, the Splatter Thug and the Bloodfray Giant don't really have a choice whether they're attacking or not. I mean, if it's a obviously horrific attack.
What are you going to do? It's not like you're going to block with it.
Right. All right, so what he's going to do here, though, is he's going to play a launch party to take out the Hussar Patrol pre-combat. His Sewer Shambler is going to be in the graveyard, and Luis battles with both of his creatures. That's 8 power coming into Owen, and he doesn't really have a great block here.
Yeah, I mean, that was the great thing about the Hussar Patrol against these Rakdos decks, is having 4 toughness is so powerful against most of the 3 power guys.
Yeah, now do you put all 3 creatures on the Bloodfray Giant? It looks like that's what Owen's doing.
Luis
is
tapped out, so.
Yeah, it's a free, but I mean, it is still like a 2.5 for 1, and it's going to leave Owen sitting with just 1 more Owen token left, facing down a Splatter Thug. He battles with it. It's a 1/1 bird token, and he just simply passes the turn back. He could have cancel. He could have another Hussar Patrol. Looks like he doesn't have the Hussar Patrol as. All right, he does have the cancel. The Splatter Thug does gut in, but the Cobble Brute is countered by cancel. Luis probably saw that one coming.
I mean, Owen is also at 5 life, which is really dangerous in this format, of course.
Yeah, Explosive Impact can make short work of 5 life and end the game very quickly. And boom, we see exactly that. Target you, and you're dead. We saw Knightly Valor come down before that. It didn't end up mattering, as Luis was able to get Owen down to the requisite 5 life to finish him off with Explosive Impact. You see Luis look to the skies for inspiration. He is thinking about what he wants to bring in. His deck is very straightforward. I've had a chance to take a look at the list.
I think what's going to be more interesting is seeing what Owen brings in, right? He saw this hyper-aggressive black-red deck with cards that are really tough to deal with, like Pack Rat and the Hammerhead, or the Bloodfray Giant.
That's right.
So I'm looking at Owen's list right now, seeing what he might be able to board in. He was playing, a really controlling deck. Unclear whether or not he can find something.
Wow, I see that Luis has opened a couple of really choice rares here. We saw one of them with the Pack Rat, but he's got another one that I will mention maybe if we see it.
Yeah,
I don't want to give that one away.
You definitely cannot give that one away.
No.
I see that Owen might want to bring in his 1 in-action injunction that he didn't start as a way to sort of hold the ground, to get some breathing room against Luis's hyper-aggressive deck.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when your opponent is going to spend a turn like for a Bloodfray Giant, if you can inaction Injunction, that can really buy you a bunch of time.
And Owen might also want to bring in his Swift Justice, even though he doesn't have a ton of creatures, that giving one of his creatures lifelink for one turn is really, really going to help. Owen is sporting a manicure.
Is he got a manicure?
He got a manicure last night.
Because I see really shiny nails on.
You know, he wanted to look his best for the tournament. I mean,
now, do you know this for a fact, or are you just making this
He tweeted
up?
that he got a manicure.
Okay, because I noticed his shiny nails, and I gave you a
Wait, you
look.
don't get a manicure before every event?
I mean, my nails don't look too bad,
I mean,
but they're
you
certainly not
I mean,
manicured.
look at Owen. He's 5-0. You could be 5-0 in this tournament if only you'd gotten a manicure.
All right. Well, maybe I just didn't know that tech yet, but next GP, look out.
Yeah, watch out for the manicure.
Book my hotel and my manicure.
Manny Petty, you need both.
Oh, jeez.
And you need to go to stylist, get the highlights in your hair.
Frosted tips.
Oh, well, that's already taken by Jerry Thompson, of course.
Yeah, right. I don't want to impede on Jerry. Is Jerry here this weekend?
I'm not sure.
I haven't seen him yet. He might be playing at the other event that's going on. But, yeah, so it looks like Owen did bring in
a manicure to this tournament.
Card. Well, besides bringing in the manicure, I think that an Action Injunction is a likely candidate for what he brought in.
You were doing this thing with your fingers where you're pointing at your nails,
yeah.
Marshall, and I thought you were like, no, he's definitely not going to bring in the Swift Justice. That was a really dumb thing to say.
Yeah, no. no, for sure. I'm on board with that one. It looks like players are going to examine their opening sevens here. Luis is going to be – so Owen Turnwald has kept his hand, and Luis says nope.
Yeah, you got to mulligan to that pack rat. You got no other choice.
Exactly.
I mean, Luis's deck looks sick even without the pack rat.
I don't think I've ever seen a Syncopate thrown down on the table that hard or that fast like Owen Turnwald did against that turn 2 pack rat from Luis.
I mean, it's like your opponent plays turn 2 Umezawa's Jite in Kamigawa block.
You definitely counter it if you can. And it's interesting because Luis was able to fight through no problem. He's a professional, so he didn't let that bother him. But, you know, one of the things, that's like the only card in the set
There's
that
a couple
could disrupt
cards.
that.
I mean, you can have Electrickery on the first turn also to kill a pack
Yeah, but
rat.
in the color, he did have Rakdos Guildgate. You're right. No, he did.
Yeah.
He did. He led with the Rakdos Guildgate. So you're right. That wasn't literally the only card in the set, but it was certainly one of the few. Luis does have the Swamp. Does he have a pack rat? It looks like Owen's representing it. I know Luis, though, and if he has it, he's casting it.
Nope, Dagger.
Nope, that is a Dagger Drone Imp.
And
a Vassal Soul instantly trumps it.
Well, let's see. Maybe Luis can build.
That is a pack rat, though. He did wait a turn, or he just drew it, but pack rat is on board. Now, he hasn't had a chance to cast it, and a lowly Rune Wing from Owen Turnwald means that we have switched into pack rat mode. Once Luis gets to activate that thing one time, he will then have 2 pack rats on the table. And remember, pack rat makes a copy of itself.
Why did they have to make it so good?
I mean,
they could have just said make a copy, and it doesn't have the text to make another copy.
Yeah.
It would be an amazing card.
It would be, or it could have just been a random rat.
I mean, it's just there's so many ways they could have made it fair.
Yeah.
But no.
I actually had a chance to talk with Eric Lauer about this when I was at Wizards last week, and you know, he said he knew when they made it that it was going to be a bomb, and he's keeping an eye on it now. The format's still young, so we'll see how everything pans out.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be a constructed bomb, but like.
No, he meant limited bomb. Yeah.
I don't know. It seems annoying to have these cards that are actually unbeatable and limited, especially one that costs so little mana and is so easy to splash in any deck.
Yep. All right, so we see the Sewer Shambler is, I always want to say flashback, but it's actually scavenged. And a Void Wielder gets it out of the way, and it looks like Owen has his mind to just race the pack rat here. Luis used the scavenge and decided not to activate the pack rat. Remember, you need 3 mana to do that, so he still just has a 1/1 for 2. And Owen is actually in prime position here to just kill Luis even after a turn 3 pack rat. Yeah, it might just not matter.
Luis at 6 life, and he's facing down 6 points of flat.
That's right. The Dagger Drone Imp comes back down. He plays a mountain, and I see a Frostburn Weird in his hand, which he can play. He's got to make the decision if he wants to make another rat token or play it. He's also got a 3-drop. It's a Viashino Racketeer. He's going to get rid of the Bloodfray Giant and draw a card. And Luis Scott Vargas is way up against it here.
If Owen has an arrest or something here, that Luis is in big trouble.
Luis is going to prevent 4 damage from the Rune Wing. He's also going to gain a life in the exchange. So he's only going to drop 2 life in that exchange there. But right now, he just scoops it up.
No answers to any fires.
Right when we talk about how good pack rat is, immediately Owen Turtenwald just beats it handily. He played back-to-back tempo-intensive 5-drops with Knightly Valor into Void Wielder and just kept Luis Scott Vargas off balance enough to beat him.
I mean, that's one of the weaknesses of the Rakdos decks is that they don't have very many good answers to flyers.
When they get behind.
Right. If they can have an aggressive start like Luis had game 1,
yeah,
then it's very tough for the Azorius deck to catch up. But if the Azorius deck can amount an army of flyers, there's outside of just casting removal on every single creature, the Rakdos decks have real trouble with them.
Interesting, because in game 1, Owen Turtenwald had one of the few answers to Pack Rat in hand and was able to use it, but then lost that game. And in this game, Luis just calmly resolves a Pack Rat on turn 2, and it just didn't matter.
I mean, Owen just curved Luis out there with superior creatures.
He
I mean,
did.
Not superior to Pack Rat, but superior to all of the rest of Luis' creatures.
Because one of the things about Pack Rat, I think that does get overlooked occasionally, is that it is pretty slow, right? When you hit that critical turn of making like your 4th Pack Rat, then things are insane.
I mean, you just need your opponent not to do something on one of their turns. If you played on turn 2, 3 through 6, if they miss a drop on one of their turns, Pack Rat can take over the game.
Then it'll get big enough to take over the game.
Sure, if you're playing against what Owen did, which is curve out play, a very impactful creature every single turn of the game.
Oh, sorry, I was just blinded by one of Owen's nails. It reflected the light just right and got in my eyes. What were you saying?
What I'm saying is that if you're like what Owen did and played an impactful creature every single turn of the game, you don't really have the time to ramp up with Pack Rat. And
absolutely.
That's what we saw that last game. And the first game we saw what happens when the Azorius deck, sits back on its counter magic against these powerful Rakdos creatures that are seen in Luis Scott Vargas' deck.
Yeah. Interesting. Pack Rat seems to fit. There's kind of 3 game states that I can think of: when you're behind, when you're at parity, or when you're ahead, and it crushes in 2 of them. And in the 3rd one, it can dig you out, but it's usually a little bit too late. Puts you in, which is, of course, being behind, where it doesn't quite dig you out of that hole. Although
it depends
at
which point you're behind. If it's like turn 8 and you're behind and you drop Pack Rat and you can easily make 2 guys, that's usually good enough for a 2-for-1, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you've all of a sudden got 3 3/3s that weren't there the turn before.
Right. But I agree that if you're behind and you're stuck on mana, it can be less powerful than it normally seems to be. But still, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure that we're balanced when we talk about it, because it is amazing, but it is also beatable in some situations. All right, Luis looks like he's led with mono mountains and no Frostburn weird here for him, although we see Owen do nothing and Luis Scott Vargas immediately misses a land drop and he's in trouble.
Is it Kirun for Owen Turtenwald?
Yeah, so he's going to keep developing his board. Luis does find a 3rd land, and it is a mountain. He makes a 3/3 Splatter Thug here. That's a good start.
No black mana for Luis, though. So I see a number of black cards in his hand that he's unable to cast.
Right, and we see an immediate tempo play and a Void Wielder. What a great card. It's going to bounce the Splatter Thug, and even if he replays it, it's just going to sit there and block it all day.
It's not Void Wielder is not at his greatest right now, just because Owen doesn't, unlike last game, Owen doesn't have an army of guys that he's able to crack in with.
Yeah, but he's
still
got
a
like
time wall.
Infinite time here. Now, Luis decided instead of the Splatter Thug, since it's not getting through anyway, he's going to play a Viashino Racketeer. He's going to pitch a Sewer Shambler, and he did draw a Swamp and play it. All right, so Owen says, battle with my Void Wielder, and boom, Fairy Imposter comes down to pick it right back up. So whatever Luis Scott Vargas does on this next play, Owen can just Void Wield it. He also has counter magic up he doesn't have it here. The Hussar Patrol is also a possibility. All right, 2 mana. Ooh, 2 mana that are red. It is a Frostburn weird. We know he's just drawn that card because he could have played it on any of the other turns. I do see Jerry Thompson walking by the way, so he is here this weekend. No Frosted Tips.
And a Dagger Dome Imp.
Dagger Drone Imp comes in for Luis. So he's starting to catch up here. He's also played a Rakdos Guildgate, so things are starting to look up for him.
At end of turn, though, Owen Turtenwald plays Eyes in the Sky.
It was an Eyes in the Skies, okay.
To create 2 1/1 bird tokens. Luis decides not to block with his Dagger Drone Imp.
He could trade it off if he wanted there, but all right, so there's another bird token in the air thanks to Seller of Songbirds. It's going to be on the ground as well. And another spell, no, it's just going to be a Castellan, as we like to say. It's a Transguild Promenade.
I mean, I think Luis is going to start attempting to build. Oh, no, he can't build a Baneslayer.
Whoa, here we go. He plays Mizium Mortars. He's overloaded it, and it looks like it's going to completely wipe out everything that Owen had. And Luis calmly bashes in there for 2, 3, 4 damage. He's going to gain a life as well.
That's insane.
Mizium Mortars, one of the best rares in the set, and it couldn't have come sooner for Luis Scott Vargas. All of a sudden, Owen Turtenwald is left rebuilding his entire board. Now, the good news for Owen is that he still has like 4 or 5 cards in hand. We know one of them's a Void Wielder, and he certainly can come back from this.
He doesn't really want to cast his Void Wielder here because he wants to wait for Luis to use the Scavenge. Or until he plays a creature that Owen really needs to bounce.
That does make a lot of sense, although I will say the Void Wielder would go a long way to stabilize or keeping him stable here. He can bounce, you know, the Frostburn Weird, for example. All right, he just says go. So now Luis knows that there's a few things at play. One of them, is it Key Rune can be activated. Another one is that Owen could have any number of instants, creatures, sorceries, whatever.
Owen looks like he's
not
just
sorceries,
taking
excuse me. Instants or flash creatures is what I meant to say. Owen said no blocks, I believe.
So he's going to see if Luis pumps his Frostborn.
That's right. So pump it once, pump it twice. Says, and then Luis says, sure, take the damage. This is Owen's last chance now if he wants to play something that's going to interfere with his board. He does. It's an explosive impact. He takes it down. This means he's only going to take 3 damage this turn. He's going to drop to 11. Luis Scott Vargas is going to gain a life, and now that Splatter Thug joins the party yet again, and Luis Scott Vargas passes the turn back.
So Owen thinking through his options here. He's
got
kind of far away from
mana.
stabilizing.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to pass the turn back again, so he's got something else with instant or flash, but I really do think that Void Wielder is going to go a long way. It keeps the Racketeer at bay. It also keeps the Splatter Thug at bay.
For sure.
So it's gonna help out a lot, but he's just going to trade off his Key Rune, tap a bunch of other mana, and he's going to play Thought Flare as well. Owen Turtenwald is really a master at using his mana in an efficient manner.
I mean, Thought Flare is another really insane uncommon in this set.
I love that card.
You get to see so many cards, and you just get this insane advantage over your opponent.
Yep, you net 2 cards on, or you net a card on the deal. You also get to just go through a bunch of your deck. Whenever you resolve that spell, it feels so good.
I mean, look, Luis cast one of the most powerful spells in the entire format, Mizium Mortars.
Yes.
And Owen is still in this game.
Yeah, that's right.
And now he gets access to probably the best card in his deck. He just needs a little time.
He
Maybe
just
like
needs a little bit of time.
One more turn.
And we know he's got that Void Wielder in hand, which is definitely going to provide him at least another turn. We see him pitch a Rune Wing and a Syncopate. And he still gets his draw step when he untaps. It's just insane. Ooh, Mind Rod comes down. It's going to help. It's going to help Luis at least put a dent in Owen's plans here. Owen still has 3 cards left after that, and he's going to get a draw step as well.
But still tough, because Owen already had to make a tough decision with discarding for Thought Flare.
That's right. I do see 1 island in Owen's hand, so he might just abandon the plan of for sure making this land drop so that he can do like 2 things, since he might not be able to do those 2 things now.
Yeah, Luis has really put Owen between a rock and a hard place. This is a really important
Remember, this is game 3 for their match. They're both sitting at 5-0 in the tournament, so, you know, the way that Owen plans out the rest of this game for himself is super critical, and you can see it's not an easy decision. I have a lot of confidence in Owen will figure it out, though. He has gotten rid of a Stab Wound, and what was the other
Void
card?
Wielder?
It was a Void Wielder. Wow. And Luis even has a follow-up play with a Thrill Kill Assassin, which he unleashes. You know, Luis is no slouch at using his mana either.
Owen passes the turn again. What could be up his sleeve?
So he could have a Hussar Patrol here.
He needs a Hussar Patrol.
Yes. Even then, Hussar Patrol's not very good here.
He's dead on board because of the Scavenge in Luis Scott Vargas' graveyard. He's got a Dramatic Rescue. I see that.
I do see that as well.
Is the other card a Hussar Patrol? I can't tell. Oh, he's going to play a Rakdos Rage Mutt, Luis Scott Vargas.
Wow, so that has haste and lifelink. And Luis is going to get in for a ton. It is a Sphinx's Revelation.
Wow.
And Owen just taps out completely for it. He's going to gain 4 life. He's going to go down to, is he going down to 1 here? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's going to go down to 2. He's going to untap with a full grip and a ton of cards in hand.
But
that's a risky play, though. considering the fact that Luis has all those creatures on board, and every single one, with the exception of the Dagger Drone Imp, is lethal.
I mean, the Dagger Drone Imp, I believe he's still lethal because of the Sewer Shambler in Luis Scott Vargas' graveyard.
Right, if he wants to make it lethal, he can definitely make it lethal. Land drop for Owen. He's sitting at 2. He's up against a huge board, and he's got to find a way out of this. He really wanted to keep a hold of that Sphinx's Revelation. So he pitched his Void Wielder.
And his Stab Wound. Both really effective cards here, but he couldn't cast both in one turn. Owen has a lot of options here, and he is under a ton of pressure from Luis Scott Vargas. You know, Luis is known for playing some kind of wacky decks during his brews on Channel Fireball, but he also knows how to turn guys sideways like the best of them, and you can see that here. His entire board has attack last turn. Right now it's on Owen's turn, though. What will Owen do? Former Player of the Year, playing against Pro Tour Berlin champion.
For those of you just joining us, we are in Game 3. I'm Marcel Sutcliffe in the booth. I am joined by Ben Schwartz, and we are seeing a really epic game here in the decider between Luis Scott Vargas on the right side of your screen versus Owen Turtenwald on the left. We saw Luis miss his third land drop, then march up the land chain until he hit Mizzium Mortars, which wiped out Owen's pretty well-developed board at the time.
Yeah.
And ever since then, Owen has had some pretty tough decisions. He just keeps passing the turn back over and over and over, and he's had plays to make on Luis's turn every time. Maybe he's got a Bluster Squall here.
Maybe it's a bluff.
I mean, Luis is going to turn his guy sideways if given the opportunity, right?
But is he going to go ahead and scavenge the Sewer Shambler?
Yes, that is a question, and he does indeed. Like you mentioned, he's going to put it on the Dagger Drone Imp. That now makes all of his creatures lethal. Any one of those that gets through is going to kill Owen.
We know Owen has Dramatic Rescue in his hands, so he can return one of Luis's creatures to his hand and gain some life. But nope. Owen scoops it up, and Luis Scott Vargas takes the match 2-1.
Wow, so Luis's very solid-looking Rakdos deck takes it down.
Man, that was an exciting game
That
to
was
watch.
an awesome game. That Mizzium Mortars was clearly huge from Luis, but he also followed it up with a lot of pressure. There was a Mind Rot.